So welcome back to French Ear Trumpet, episode 3 of the podcast that covers people's lives in France, people thinking about living in France, and just the whole French thing altogether. I'm joined today by Kelly. Kelly is Jane's eldest daughter, and the subject of this week's podcast is lots of people have done lots of content about how they've moved to France, but I don't remember reading anything or hearing anything about the people that are left behind. Now, we've got two perspectives on that. We've got Kelly, whose mum came to France with me, and now we've got Andy, whose parents and brother went to France and left.
Right.
Less. And but then you decided to take it a bit further and you actually moved to France. So
yeah,
if I can just ask Kelly first, and then we'll move to Andy's perspective, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, go ahead. I'm interested to see. Yeah.
So, what was the first you heard that your mum was going to move to France, or she was thinking of moving? What was the first bit that you heard?
So obviously, you two had already bought the place in Normandy as a holiday home.
Yeah.
And there was never really any talk for the first few years, I would say, of actually coming over. And then I just remember coming round to you guys one day, and it was not an announcement, but that, you kind of mentioned that actually it's something that we're thinking about. And I think at the time you just think, well, okay, it's great. It's a great dream to have.
How did you feel about it though? Was it a shock?
A little bit, yeah. It was a little bit. Wasn't really expecting, to hear that. But I think you take it away. You don't really sort of think too much into it, because at that point I don't think you'd really started looking for
no, because it was actually some time in the future, and you just think it's not going to happen, did it?
Yeah, like I say, I think the initial reaction was, what a nice dream to have.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
And what was the reaction with other girls? Because Jane's got 2 other daughters. So what was the reaction when you spoke to them about it?
I think it was quite similar, to be fair, because it was just, it was a long way off, because, once this, the idea was there, and we were all kind of aware of it, then the 5-year plan came along, didn't it?
It did, yeah. But an actual 5-year plan. And
really? Go on, talk me through how that happened.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people talk about 5-10-year plans. What was your 5-year plan then?
So the 5-year plan was that we had obviously already bought the house up in Normandy, actually the Pays de Loire, and the idea was that we was both gonna finish work when I was 62, and we was just gonna move over and do the whole retirement thing. But events, I mean, I already talked about this, but the events not conspired against us, because it was good actually. There was
everything fell into place.
Everything fell into place. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So with you, Andy, what was the first time that you heard that your parents were going to move to France?
Interestingly, it's very similar, and I can see a theme here really, that people buy a home in France as a holiday home, and then they decide, obviously all this is back before Brexit. It's probably not the same now. It's more of a considered effort now, because before you could just move wherever you wanted to go. But I would say that it was a similar situation, that my mum and dad had got a holiday home. They'd done well in their business, so they wanted to just go and spend their downtime in France. And then it was always made known, I guess, that eventually they would move to France. That was, so from when they bought the house, it was known that that was a retirement plan, I guess. So yeah, very, very similar.
So when did your brother, did he move at the same time, or did he move with them, or?
No, that's a very different story. So
Okay.
we can get into that later, actually.
Okay. All right.
I think.
So how did you feel when they said, look, we're going to move there?
So yeah, it's a good question, and I didn't really feel anything different because when they said they were going to move permanently, you mean?
Yeah. How old was you when that took place, and what was you doing at the time?
Crikey, I guess probably. I know I would have been. I was working in London, so I was working full time, but I was living in Hertfordshire, just outside London. So I had my own life. Now it's quite different for me because they lived in Yorkshire, so they lived in Harrogate, York, and miles away. I'd already made the decision to move down to London, so I was distanced from them anyway to start with. So that made it, I guess, easier because I didn't see them. It's not like I was round the corner so they could come and see me every day. I've never really had that, so we were miles away. Is that something that you considered when they were moving to France, Kelly? Was it because you were quite close proximity wise, and then it changed to being in a different country?
Yeah, definitely. Sort of as things progress, you start to process it, as I say, and you do start to think about, well, actually, Mum's not going to be around the corner.
Because she was literally around the corner.
Literally.
For two of the girls.
Yeah.
And also for me personally, me and my mum used to work together as well. So it's kind of a double whammy.
So that's really close.
Yeah. So it's definitely a double whammy when they actually made the move. So not only was she not round the corner after 40 odd years, however old I was when you left, she wasn't there every day at work either.
Wow.
So definitely an impact, yeah.
So when that actually happened, how did you feel? Obviously, you're missing her in both respects, both at work and at home, I guess. How was that for you?
It was definitely a sense of loss. When she went, there was a few tears privately. I'm not ashamed to say.
I can imagine.
Yeah, but you kind of, I think as things move on and as time goes by, you have a new normal, don't you? And actually, just feels quite natural once the move took place. It started to feel quite natural that it was now a weekly phone call. It wasn't see each other every day at work, or she was 20 minutes around the corner. It just became, that's how it's going to be from now on. And I think we make more of an effort to do that, because when you are quite close together, proximity wise, we didn't sort of spend time at each other's houses all the time, but we now make the effort to make sure that we speak quite regularly.
Do you think you probably talk to her more now than you did before? I suppose it's different for you because you worked with her, but do you think the other girls talk to her more now than they did before?
Yeah, definitely. With one of my sisters, I would say, they certainly speak. Sort of, it's more, I think, maybe a weekly call now. Whereas, when you were just up the road, it was, might not speak for a couple of weeks.
That's it. No, just take it for granted.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess it's the feeling of just knowing that they're there. And the only thing I can liken it to is like if you're if you're learning to drive, there's always someone sat there in the passenger seat. The second you pass the test and you're there on your own, that feeling, oh, hold on, I'm on my own. Is that a similar kind of feeling as you got?
I would say a sense of, as silly as it might sound, but maybe a sense of abandonment in a way, absolutely. I'd liken it to that.
Wow, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. No, I fully understand it. But it's not just people who move abroad. I mean, people who just move long distances within the same country. Not necessarily that, but yeah, I understand what you mean. Yeah, but I guess new technology now with video calls like we're doing right now probably make it easier, I guess. So you can find out how it's going more or less immediately. You don't have to wait for a letter or a phone call weekly. You can see more or less instantly what's going on.
When I was growing up, my brother was hardly ever around because I must have been 13 when my brother went off to the Navy.
Yeah.
I hardly ever saw him. He was away for 3-4 months at a time. When he came back, when he came back on leave, he'd be often, doing what sailors do. And hardly ever saw him. And when he left the Navy, went into the fire brigade. He was living in Raynham, which was about 15-20 minutes from me. And I didn't see him very often because he was there. Yeah. So I haven't really got to try. He was there. And then when he retired from the fire brigade after 30 years, he went to live in Cape Verde. And because of Skype, I was able to talk to him. And I used to talk to him really regularly, once a fortnight, which was really regularly. And it was always like I just stopped talking to him a few hours ago. It just picked up,
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
It's the beauty of new technology. You're able to do that and then keep in touch. How would you feel if you didn't have that ability? So you can literally just have a voice call, a video call. I know when I've been there and Jane said, look, I've got to make this call to Kelly or whatever. And you can see if that wasn't available and the new technology wasn't there, I guess it would be worse for you, wouldn't it? It would be even worse.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you should say that because before Mum and Colin left, they actually went out and bought us all Echo shows, so that we could do a quality call. And I think we tried it a couple of times.
It was rubbish.
And the technology wasn't great.
Yeah.
Right.
We tend to do just a voice call. And it's enough, to be fair. We spend a good hour probably once a week on the phone, talking about our week, what's going on and all the rest of it as you do. And it's enough. And I think for me personally, again, it's quite important that we always have a visit planned, something booked up, so we know when we're going to see each other again.
Yeah, you just hit something there, which is quite important. And it's something you've just said that I used to do a lot. So I was working full time, but I was lucky. I could see my rota. I could see what I was going to do more or less for the next, I don't know, I guess 6 months or so. And I didn't like coming back from seeing my parents if I didn't have the following one booked. Yeah. So like you said, you've got something booked and it's something to look forward to, and it really is, and it becomes quality time. And I think, when you do go and see them, that time is not spent arguing, it's not spent squabbling over stuff, it's spent real quality time. And I found that, and this is quite personal, I guess, but I found that the time I spent with them then, because it was limited, wouldn't say better, but was meant more to me, and I can remember more of it because of that. Is that something similar as what you experiencing now?
I would 100% agree with that. And we're kind of this was a 5-day trip this time, and last night I was sitting down looking for the next flight. So yeah, I would 100% agree with that.
Yeah, exactly. And I used to do the same. It was nice to know. I found it easier to leave knowing when I was going to come back. Yeah. And I guess that's a similar sort of thing. Yeah.
I think the choices that you make, you never really know the repercussions, the dynamics of, your family relationships until you actually get into the thick of it. And, you work out a way, don't you? You just work it.
You make it work.
That's it. Yeah. You just just have to make it work. And and it's what you get back out is directly related to the effort that you put in.
I think you're right. I mean, I travel a lot, so not this week, but the week before. In the 7 days, I was on 4 planes. So I went to, I get around a lot to different countries and stuff because I made the choice that that's what I want to do. And it's actually, if you get it down quite well, you can go and visit, especially London, anywhere near London. It's so easy to go and visit. I treat it more like commuting than I do going on a holiday. So
I think that the flight from Limoges to London, what's it, hour and
20, I think.
Yeah, about an hour and 20 minutes. You can't even get to Birmingham from London. In fact, you can't even get to Potter's Bar from
now. This is fun. This is a funny thing that I don't know. My mum and dad found this. I know it's probably relevant, really. When they came over, they had a lot of friends that said, "Oh yeah, we'll come and see you. We'll come and see you." But the whole effort of coming to see them, I think, overwhelms them unnecessarily.
Yeah.
So I can go from here to Nantes, which is the local airport, fly to London, either Stansted or Gatwick.
Yeah.
I've got 2 different choices, and I can be there in, it's 55 minutes is the shortest flight.
Mm-hmm.
And the flight costs less than the train to London from the airport.
Yeah.
And that happened, as long as it's not school holidays or on peak or whatever, but that's normal. I mean, the cheapest I've ever had it is €8 each way.
Not bad.
So
I haven't.
So do you think it's a mindset that you have to get into? Because I mean, now you've done it, I don't know how many times, quite a few times. It's easy, isn't it? You don't really have to think about it. You just go through the motions and you turn up.
Yeah.
Whereas someone who's not done, is thinking, I've got to go to the airport, I have to get on the right plane, and I have to do that, and there's all this to do. But once you've done it a few times, it is literally like getting on the bus, isn't it?
It really is, yeah. Yeah, I think the hardest part is maybe getting to the airport, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Silly o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, I found that an awful lot is getting to and from the airport's the hardest bit. The plane ride, it's just no problem really.
Tell me about your brother.
Okay, so I was still living in London at the time, but I was spending an awful lot of time back here in France visiting my parents and stuff. And then one day, my mum came out of the house, and it was just me, my dad, and my mum. And my mum came out and said, "Oh, Dave's coming." And great, family holiday. She was like, "No, he's coming for forever." I said, "What?" And it was no notice, no nothing, and he just turned up in his car with all his gear in the back, and that was it. It's just like that.
And is he younger than you or older?
2 years younger.
2 years younger, okay.
And he just turned up one day and said, "Right, that's it. I'm here." And I'm living here. But that's when you could do that, obviously, but you can't now. And then he went on then, he met a French girl, he lives here, and he's got his own business and his daughter, and that was it. He just literally one day, "I don't fancy this anymore, I'm going to go to France." So it was quite unexpected, shall we say.
How did you feel about that when it happened?
Yeah, I was quite happy with it because he'd be nearer my mum and dad if there's any problems, because I was still living in the UK by then. So if, as far as I'm concerned, it was better because he could look after mum and dad if they needed it. So it was good. It didn't bother me one way or the other. Because we had nothing. We had no other family. I guess my nan, but she wasn't. she was there, but she wasn't, if you know what I mean. So he came over, and that was it. There's no more family. Well, just me left in England, and then I followed shortly after.
So what was the factor that made you say, that's it, I'm going to go and live there? Because I know your father was quite ill.
Yeah, that was it.
So was that the only factor, or did you think, actually, I could probably make this work?
If I had to put a percentage on it, 95% was that. And the 5% was I'd already bought a house there. Like you were saying, Kelly, earlier, it was a holiday home. But 95% of it was I could see that my dad needed serious help, and my mum's a tough Yorkshire woman, and she was, to the end, she was absolute trooper. But you could tell that it just, no matter how much you did, it wasn't going to be enough. So I had to make the decision that, stay in the UK or go to France and help out the parents when they really needed it. And they'd spent their whole life helping me out. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Yeah. So anyway, that simply, that was how it happened. So I came over, and then Brexit happened in 2021, and I had to make a decision. I couldn't go back. Well, I could go back, but then if there was problems, I couldn't get back because I'd done my 90 days.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So if something happened to my dad, if he passed away, or is what I mean, or got seriously ill, I couldn't come and help, and I couldn't do anything. So my hand was forced. I had to apply for French residency, and if I applied for it under the Brexit scheme, it was easy to get. I didn't have to have a job or anything. I just had to have, was I there? Yeah, basically. And I was. So I had to do that, which meant saying goodbye to my previous life.
Right. When it was a French form that just said, "Are you here?"
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes, no.
And that was it, I guess. So, but all of that was cool. Getting back to the original idea, the whole this episode is none of that would have been necessary had my parents been in England. I could obviously have moved closer to them there, no problems, looked after them. But there's one big problem with that the care that my dad received here, especially during COVID, which was the last few years of his life, was exceptional. There's no other ways to say it.
Fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard stories of people moving back to England because of the healthcare, and I just don't understand it.
Makes no sense.
Because my dad had a serious terminal illness, I guess, and he was looked after amazingly. And because we all had the COVID passports at the time, the paper and all that business, we could go and spend our last time with him. And it was quite funny because, I mean, this is completely off the subject here, by the way, everyone. It's a tangent. I know all the subscribers who like a tangent. Yeah, we went to the hospital when he was, when we knew he wasn't going to make it, and they put him in a private room with his, he was all on his own. So we took a laptop in, and it was during COVID, so we were allowed to do it because we had the passports. And we went in there, and every day, all three of us, me, my mum and my brother, spent the whole time with my dad watching old films.
Brilliant.
So all the films he wanted, he'd just request, and then the next day we'd bring in the films, and then we'd watch them. Brilliant. And I remember the last film he watched was Monty Python's Life of Brian. He loved it.
He's a very naughty boy.
Yeah, he loved it. And I remember the nurses and stuff walking in, and they were brilliant, and they were like, "Oh, you're really well installed here," because he was in his private room. We just play him all this. He had his, it was really, really good. And at his funeral, when we went to the crematorium, we played the "Look on the Bright Side of Life."
On the bright side of life, yeah.
Because and that was a difficult time for everybody throughout the world. but we were really lucky to be in this country to have that healthcare and those people. But everything leading up to that was brilliant as well. I mean, I can't complain. But that's I think that's going to be a different episode, healthcare. But anyway, so that's how I ended up here. But yeah.
I'll ask, Cal, is that when your mum went, did that change the dynamic? You being the eldest.
Oh yeah, good question.
Change the dynamic between you and your sisters.
Yeah, it definitely has. Right up until last month. I guess, you know, I frequently hear from my sisters, you know, when not necessarily times of crisis, but, you know, if they're a bit down or, you know, arguments with partners and, you know, things like that, they will certainly ring my number, I think, or, you know, come to my house now. Whereas multiple times I've heard them say, you know, oh, if Mum was here, I would have gone there. So yeah, it's certainly changed the dynamic. Yeah, but you know,
how do you feel about that?
I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, which is fine. You know, I'm the oldest. We support each other. We get on well enough to do that now. So yeah, you know, it doesn't feel that it's wrong, or, you know, it's just natural, I think. But yeah, you know, the option of them going to see Mum and myself as well, equally, you know.
I think because your mum lived in the same house, what,
31 years.
31 years in one place, which in the corner. And then for that to suddenly stop, not suddenly stop, but for that to stop, and you know, that the availability of that like a safe space, don't they? Yeah, for that to end, it's quite a thing, really.
Yeah. And there were occasions where, you know, just for a split second, you might think, oh, you know, I'll pop to Mum's and do that, use the printer or whatever it may be.
I do that. Absolutely.
And then, you know, you realise, oh, okay, she's not there. I mean, not so much now, but initially, yeah.
Now, no one's going to watch this anyway. So, was there ever times when you wished that it hadn't happened?
Certainly, yeah, of course.
When you thought, or, you know, did you think, how could you do this?
Yeah, when I lost my dog.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh yeah, crikey, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, you know, Rottweiler. He was my absolute baby, and we lost him.
He was huge.
He was huge. Yeah, loved him to pieces. And when I lost him, yeah, I think if I could have, you know, if Mum was there, she probably would have been the first port of call. To be fair, yeah.
Do you know that now you mentioned that, I remember similar situation. I had a Jack Russell who was seriously ill, went to the vets, and at the time, Mum and Dad were over at the house in France, and I had to make the decision whether to put the dog down or not, and it's not something I'd ever done before. And I didn't know what to judge it by, and I was just looking for some advice. And you're right, when you know, they're just down there, and you know, yeah, it would be nice just to go around and say, look, you know, what do you think, and all that sort of stuff. I guess there is that. Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying there. It's interesting.
Yeah, and there's also, I think, you know, not often, but there's also been an occasion where you may think, oh, I'd like to have that conversation with Mum, but you don't have it because you don't want to worry her about.
Yeah.
There's that side of it as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's both ways, because you know, there was a bit of a health scare with your mum, and there was no one I could talk to about it. And but you know, fortunately, that's didn't turn out how we thought it was going to, or how I thought it was going to. But I just had no one to talk to. Otherwise, I think if we'd have been, you know, back in the UK, I would have come around and see you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I guess when you say all that, would it be any difference if they lived in Scotland and you lived in London?
Probably not, to be fair. I don't think.
Probably be worse, actually, because I don't know how many Scottish viewers have we got.
Don't forget, Doug. I see what you mean. So it could be, the same if you were in, I don't know, Wales because a good friend of mine, Big Dave, we all know Big Dave. By the way, I want to say for Big Dave, well done on your latest competition. Came third in Britain's Naturally Strongest Man in his class, and he's now through to the finals. So well done. Well done.
Really big Dave.
Yeah.
Because his name's Dave and he's big.
I guess that.
Yeah, it's pretty big. Anyway, so what I was going to say is his mum and dad moved to Wales. So that's quite a big distance between, just outside London to Wales. It's similar kind of distance. You can't just, if you're having a bad day, you can't just drive around there. It's very similar. But I guess you could just get in a car and drive if you wanted to. I bet that's probably the difference, I suppose, psychologically, anyway.
Yeah, you could be right on that, actually. I think maybe, in your mind, you're thinking, well, mum's in another country, so yeah, maybe it would make a difference. I don't know.
Actually, I do remember that when we lived up in Normandy, my brother was living down in Cornwall, and it turned out that I think it was 256 miles. 256 miles from our front door in Dagenham to our house in Normandy, and it was 256 miles from our house in Dagenham to his house in Cornwall.
Yeah, there's a lot of psychology at play, I think, about visiting. My mum used to, well, still does, go and visit a lot of her friends in England. She's like me, no problem, just get on a plane. In an hour's time, you're in England, and then you can be there in no time at all. But there's a psychological block, I think, for people coming. They see it as a holiday. Right, we've got to plan. We've got to, we've got to do this. We've got to get a suitcase. We've got to do this, do that. And I keep saying to my friends, look, just book a flight, and I'll pick you up. That's literally all you have to do is get on the plane. Anything after the plane, I'll sort out.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we have all the all the shower gel and shampoo and all that stuff. So turn up, with a bag of clothes. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't have to think about it. As you say, once you get off the plane, you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
Shout out to one of my friends. If he's watching this, you'll know who you are. Actually came to my house with towels.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like you can't get them out here. Just no idea. It's like, what? He said, I've got this massive suitcase. I had to pay so much to get this suitcase. What have you got in there? Well, I've got my shower gel, my soaps, and all that. Yeah, what's that? It's my towels. I've got my hand towel and my bath. I was like, really? That was quite an eye opener. And but it's not so much that it's the psychology, like what they think it is, because you're going out the country. They think you've got to prepare for a holiday.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily the case, is it? I mean, once you've got someone like you've got Colin and Jane on that side, you can just get on the plane and with literally what you're wearing, and everything can be sorted out later. That's what I used to do a lot. Was at the end I had clothes over here anyway. Not many, but enough. And then I'd just get on with like a really tiny little shoulder bag with just my laptop and stuff in, and that was it, because everything was here. It's strange that people don't come over and visit as much as you think they would, because you're offering, basically, if they think it's a holiday, you're offering a free holiday, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean,
nobody comes. It's weird.
We went down to Branton today for
oh, that's nice.
Bit of a day out. Yeah, it was lovely. Had a bit of a day out, and we was talking about that on the way back in the car, saying that when Jane finished work at Falls, all these people said, yeah, we're going to come and visit, and no one's come. No one's come.
But I don't know if that's more about the people, I guess, because if someone said to me, oh, I'm in such and such, you can come and visit anytime you want, I'd be like, yep. Can I come over? But I suppose that's yeah. I'm trying to get my best friend over, and he says, "Oh yeah, I'll come over, no problem." He's not stuck for money. He's not stuck for time. His kids are grown up, and his wife keeps telling him, "Look, I wish you'd just go. I want the time off." But there's something psychological, I guess. He just there's something about it. Booking the flight and coming. I don't know why, but yeah, it's very strange.
Yeah, it's odd.
So just to drag it back to the
another tangent there.
To the main topic. Knowing what you know now, if you could go back in time and be yourself when you found out about it, would you have a different attitude, do you think, or do you think you would still feel the same?
Knowing what I know now,
yeah.
I think the attitude might be slightly different.
In what way?
I can see how happy Mum is here. It's so easy to jump on a plane and come and visit and make that, have that quality time. And I just know that, you're where you want to be. You've worked hard to get here. And yeah, I think for anyone, if they can make their dreams come true, then why not? Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah. Because I mean, we've said this before, but lots of people talk about it, but there's not many people actually do it. It's like the 5-year plan. Loads of people have a 5-year plan, but they get the 3 weeks in and forget about it, don't they?
Right. I'm just going to quickly. You know who you are. You've got a 10-year plan. You're 9 years into it, and nothing's changed. Like for him. They know who they are.
Andy's told me about you. Sort yourself out. Yeah. Shape up or ship out.
Exactly. No, you're right though. Life is really too short. It really is. Yeah. And the time you think you've got left, and this was quite evident with my dad. He'd retired at a certain age. He thought, well, that will give me X amount of time.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the case. You never know.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say we were talking about that as well, weren't we?
Yeah.
Where people have their dreams and plans for what they want to do in retirement, and the amount of people that you hear they retire and it's just they're robbed of it because they have they end up having a death or whatever. Something stops it.
There was a fellow that I knew up in Normandy, had his own fishing lake there, and all right, John, I don't know if you're watching. And his friend was a roofer. He had a successful roofing business in France. Real skilled artisan when it comes to roofs. And he'd be working up 30 meters off the ground, 40 meters off the ground, doing these chateau roofs and stuff like that. And he was helping a friend of his put some felt on a shed, and slipped, fell on his head, broke his neck, dead. Bosh, like that.
Oh, thanks for that.
Yeah. But yeah, you just don't know what's around the corner, so you can't take anything for granted. If you want to do something, just go and do it, and then worry about it later.
I think you're absolutely right, and that's the one thing I've learned, and I certainly learned that from my dad. He was the same sort of thing. He's like, look, just you've got to do what suits you, and that's what you've got to do. And I think that the people that do move to France have that ability to do that. But there are things that bring them back, like grandchildren. A lot of people move back for grandkids, I guess.
Let's talk about that, because because Jane had the 3 girls quite young, so which meant that the grandchildren were of a certain age. What am I trying to say?
He hasn't talked about. All, I think, from having small grandchildren around. She's kind of seen them grow into teenagers, if you like, almost, when you left. And by that point, I think, yeah, they were interested in what they were doing with their own friends and school, and they're kind of,
Absolutely.
yeah. Had they have been any younger, who knows?
No,
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
I think what you're trying to say is the grandkid going back to for grandkids is a very small time period between when you can interact with them and when they're no longer interested in seeing grandma or granddad or whatever. There's more important things in their life. I mean, you can't blame them. I was probably the same when I was young. Oh God, you got to go see grandma. Looking back on it now, I'd spend all the time I could with them, but at the time you don't, dear. So I understand, but there's a lot of people that cancel their retirement in France and then move back just for that small period. And then once that's over, you're then still in England and everything you wanted to do is gone. So it's a complicated and difficult scenario, and everyone's different. Yeah. But that definitely exists. That's a thing. The grandkid thing is definitely a thing.
I just think
sure.
The circumstances were right at the time, weren't they? You know, she was kind of ready and willing to do what what you guys had planned to do. So the circumstances were.
Yeah. As I said, coming back to that 5-year plan, we had talked it all through, and it just, seemed to fall into place, like you said. And we was very lucky with circumstances as well. Very lucky, right along the way, actually. I say fortune favours the brave, don't they? But we was quite of the week. But we was very lucky into so many things along the way. So the euro against the pound interest rate, when we sent a load of money over, we got 146.
Right, yeah.
We were so lucky with that. When we sold the house in Dagenham, it was the last couple of months of the end of the stamp duty holiday. So people were kicking the door down trying to buy the place before the end of the stamp duty holiday.
Yeah.
And so many things. The end of the Brexit withdrawal agreement, so we was able to get our residency.
So it's all good stuff, isn't it? I mean, there's
all of these things. Not saying that COVID was a good thing. Obviously, it was a tragedy for lots of people. But in terms of changing things work-wise for me, it worked out that I was able to take a redundancy package that made it possible for us to move out that much earlier.
Yeah.
So so it's we've just been very, very lucky to have lots of things fall into place one after the other.
So a question then for Kelly. Do you think if you'd been so inclined at the start and said, look, Mum, I really don't want you to go, do you think she would have gone?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, throw them in there.
I know the answer.
Do you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I think I know the answer. Maybe we applied enough pressure, then maybe not.
Yeah, I think so. And in a way, that's better because you know that if, Jane probably is happier about moving there, knowing that if you really didn't want her to go, you would have said. So it makes her more comfortable where she is now, I guess.
Yeah. She would have said, absolutely, she would stay.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
And I think, we're old enough, we're leading our own lives, we're old enough to understand, that if that's what's going to make her happy, ultimately that's what we want for her in the same way that she wants that for us. So, why would we not be behind that?
Yeah, exactly. That's really good. And where do you think your mum would be and Colin would be right now if you hadn't moved to France? Where else would they be, do you reckon?
I don't know, to be honest. Probably not in Dagenham, because Mum was really not enjoying that anymore. Yeah.
No.
I don't know. Maybe they would have considered Spain, something like that. I don't know. Not really I don't think we've had that conversation.
No. What would we have been doing? I think the circumstances that I just talked about, and with the property in Dagenham, made it fiscally responsible to sell it at that time. Where we would have taken that money, don't know. Yeah.
The only thing I can say is that I've heard, Mum saying conversation. Well, if because she's adamant she would never go back to the UK. She's always said, well, if they kick me out of France, I'll look in Spain. So.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting. Or whether, I mean, we're probably going to cover this in another episode, but people ask quite often, would you go back? And, for me, definitely not. There's nothing left there for me now. But it's different to see it from the other side, where obviously you've got family that still live over in the UK, whether you would go back or not.
I have a question for you. So, you've seen our experience, right, and what it's like here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it's like here now. Do you think this is something that you could do in the future?
Yeah, something that I've thought about. I don't think I would be ready for it just yet.
No, of course. Yeah. No, because you have to get yourself financially.
Of course, viable, yeah. But yeah, absolutely. I think it looks like a really nice way to live day by day. Yeah, so something to consider.
Yeah, definitely. I guess everything's worth considering, isn't it? But when you got your career and your life, it's very difficult to make that change otherwise. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, good. So all in all, because we're coming up to 50 minutes now, would you believe?
Yeah.
So I know it just goes like that, doesn't it? Do you think the move was beneficial for your mum and for you and for the family, or was the bits of it you would change? For example, would you not like your mum to move so soon, or would you rather stay a little bit more in England, or is there anything you would change?
Absolutely not. No, I think they did it at the right time, for all sorts of reasons, but certainly for her, she swears a hell of a lot less now. I think
he's on her best behaviour when you're here.
I've got to say, I've not noticed that.
No, I wouldn't change a thing. I just see that they're happy. She's happy. So no, absolutely not.
Oh, brilliant! That's really good. It's good to hear. It's really good to hear. I guess then.
So, I'd like to thank you, Kelly, for doing this, because Kelly was a bit iffy about doing it. Yeah. But
no, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it's good.
As you did, and yeah, talking's good. Talking's good. So, if you'd like to give the video a thumbs up, that'd be great. Maybe think about sharing it on social media, on your Facebooks and so on, and press the notification bell so that you know when there's new content. And maybe think about subscribing if you're not subscribed already. And it's goodbye from me.
And it's good night from him.